think that's going to be the same response you'll see here. Of course they're trying to say that he's too far left. They say that about literally any Democrat running against literally any Republican. If it was Joe Manchin, they'd be saying the same thing because it's all they know how to say. Of course, that'll be refuted, and we'll remind everybody that, you know, if you think, I don't know, making sure that everyone in Minnesota had paid family leave, as he's done, if you think that's too far left, you can go around saying that, but vast majority of Americans think that's a good idea. So, yes, you can do the point-by-point answer. We'll do the fact-checking. But I think it's going to be really important not to take the bait, because they will try to redirect the conversation toward whatever is darkest and most divisive and, you know, most out of that same old playbook that we've seen again and again and again. But you can see how tired Americans are of that playbook and how energized people are. I mean, that rally, I just caught a few minutes of it, but off the charts energy there. So you can see that Americans are ready for something different. And I think, you know, the more the Trump campaign flails in that old, dark, divisive mode, yeah, they'll grab some attention here and there for whatever outrageous claims they make about our ticket. But I don't think a lot of it's going to stick, because none of it's true. And maybe most importantly, because I think people are just kind of bored with that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That was Pete Buttigieg responding to a ridiculous attack that Donald Trump made on Truth Social about Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, saying this. Trump posted, "This is the most radical left duo in American history. There has never been anything like it, and there never will be again. Crazy, comma, blah is indeed crazy. I hear there is a big movement to bring back Crooked Joe." Now, Donald Trump and the rest of the Republican Party are making this big effort to label Kamala Harris and Tim Walz as radical and crazy progressive. But let's talk about the things that they are saying are far too radical. Making sure children are fed at school, making sure roads and bridges are safe to drive on, lowering the cost of prescription drugs. These aren't radical policies. These are common sense policies that all Americans can get on board with, except for Donald Trump, because he doesn't care about anybody but himself. He doesn't have a plan. He doesn't have an agenda besides rolling back decades worth of rights. That's what Donald Trump wants to do. And so he can't even compartmentalize the idea of helping other people. And that's what Pete Buttigieg talks about in this next clip.
But one thing you notice right away about him is that it's not about him. I was thinking about what those different experiences have in common. Being a teacher, being a coach, being a senior non-commissioned officer. And what they all have in common is they're all about cultivating and supporting other people. And you can tell that's what he's about. And that's what this ticket is about. I think it's one of the reasons why the Trump campaign can't figure out what to do with this ticket, even more so today than what's been true ever since she became the nominee. They cannot fathom a campaign or any leaders who are not about themselves. But this campaign, as impressive and compelling as the ticket themselves are, they've also made it clear that this campaign isn't about them. It's about you. It's about us. It's about the future of this country. And I think his personal qualities and his message really speak to that in a way that's going to continue that focus on the American people. That's how she's going to win this election.
Kamala Harris and Tim Walz care about people. They have spent their whole lives working to improve the lives of those around them in their communities at the state and national level. That's what they do. That's what they care about. Donald Trump can't even understand the idea of caring about other people. And so he attacks Kamala Harris and he attacks Tim Walz like they have this separate agenda. He thinks that they are only trying to help people to get something out of it, because he doesn't understand the idea of being selfless. He can't even comprehend what that means. And so he thinks that they're doing this for some alternate reason other than the fact that what they want to do with their lives is make America better. And it's so clear that this contrast exists, and we've talked about it so much between, obviously, Kamala Harris, the prosecutor, and Donald Trump, the convicted felon. But we also have Donald Trump, the lifelong selfish individual, someone who is a narcissist, only cares about themselves, and then Kamala Harris, who's been a public servant her entire life. And that contrast doesn't just exist between those two, but Pete Buttigieg talks about the contrast between Tim Walz and J.D. Vance in this clip.
Just, again, somebody who is so clearly and straightforwardly connected to the experiences of most Americans, the way Tim Walz is. I mean, the first time I met him, or at least the first time I spent much time with him, was at the Minnesota State Fair. It was right next to the enclosure where they do the butter sculpture, the life-size butter sculpture, which is about as prototypically Minnesota State Fair as I can imagine. And he greeted me like an old friend, and just I remember thinking, he's obviously the governor. I know what he looks like, and he sounds like the governor, but he didn't carry himself like somebody who thought he was more important than anybody else in the room, in the building, or on the fairgrounds. He's somebody who just knows where he came from and gets where people are at. Seeing the contrast between that and J.D. Vance, who has contorted himself repeatedly from a never-Trumper Silicon Valley investor to now trying to be a voice of the working-class Midwest. It's just going to be an extraordinary contrast, and I'm very much looking forward to watching that debate.
It's quite
I don't know if J.D. Vance is going to be like his good friend Donald Trump and be too afraid to debate Tim Walz, but I'd be really disappointed if he was, because J.D. Vance is the least organic, the least authentic person maybe in the world right now. He has no spine. He bends and contorts himself in whatever way is beneficial and advantageous in that exact moment. And it's usually in support of Donald Trump's terrible policies, because as I've seen many of y'all reply with in the comments, J.D. Vance is J.D. advance his career at any cost. That's what he cares about. Just like Donald Trump. He is completely selfish. He is completely self-centered. His ambition has no end but to advance his own career. That's all he cares about. And so to see the contrast between him and Tim Walz would be so incredible on the debate stage, not just because they're such different people, but Tim Walz has such a better record. J.D. Vance has no record. He hasn't even been in the Senate for 2 years, and he's already done a terrible job. And so I would love to see that debate. I really hope it happens, but if it doesn't, I know Tim Walz will be hitting J.D. Vance hard on the campaign trail, and this is an example of how he's going to do it.
J.D. Vance literally wrote the foreword for the architect of the Project 2025 agenda. Like all regular people I grew up with in the heartland, J.D. studied at Yale, had his career funded by Silicon Valley billionaires, and then wrote a bestseller trashing that community. Come on! That's not what middle America is. And I got to tell you, I can't wait to debate the guy. That is, if he's willing to get off the couch and show up. So.
I love it. I love the couch jokes. Republicans are getting upset about them, but I don't really care. They're funny. J.D. Vance is weird. I am happy for him to be made fun of for it. It's incredible. I want to see more of it, because Republicans are weird. They're just strange people. They just are. There's nothing wrong with calling that out. MAGA Republicans are in a cult. They always have been since 2015, and we should call them out for it. We absolutely should. I see nothing wrong with that. I think it's good. And so I'm glad that Tim Walz is just so upfront, so frank about how he feels about MAGA and their cult and their attempts to stand in the way of advancing our country, pushing it forward, protecting fundamental freedoms. I love it. I love this ticket. We have the dream ticket. They have the nightmare ticket that only gets worse. And I don't think they're waking up from that nightmare until November 6th in the morning, when they wake up to Kamala Harris as their president and Tim Walz as their vice president. And I'm sure there will be plenty of MAGA meltdowns then. And I'm really looking forward to seeing those. And I'm really looking forward to, after that, soaking it up, enjoying it, and then never thinking about Donald Trump again, except maybe when he gets put behind bars. Then we'll pop a little bit of champagne that day. We'll enjoy that day. But until then, I am excited to keep advocating on behalf of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and supporting this incredible ticket. And if you want to as well, and if you want to support this movement to do so, you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Join what we are building on this channel. It is growing so fast because of your support, and it really means the world to me. And if you want to go a little step further, you can hit that like button, and that also really helps support this channel. And until next time, I'll see you soon.